Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Friday episode of Stand Up. Sorry, I skipped out on yesterday. I needed a rest day. It's a crazy busy week. All is well, though. People reach out concerned when you don't show up to work, but I'm good. Really good, actually. I was just a little burnt out at yesterday night. Just couldn't get it done. So it happens from time to time. But I got a lot of other things done yesterday, and I'm happy to have you here today. Thanks to everybody who joined us at last night's Stand Up Happy Hour Hangout. Subscribers only. We had a great time, as always. If you want to watch it, there's a link in today's subscriber email, along with a shot of vitamin N. Keep those coming, everybody. This is the best time of year, in my opinion. I love autumn, so get out there and take photos outside of those leaves changing and however autumn looks in your neck of the woods. I want to see it. I want to share it with every other subscriber, which is what I do every day. If you're a patreon.com/Pete Dominic subscriber, you get that email. So send me your vitamin N. Thank you for being here. I've got a great conversation with JL Cauvin coming up. That begins at about 27 minutes in today. And a heads up, I should be going live with Christian Finnegan today at 1:30 East. Look for that wherever you follow me on social media, YouTube, Substack, etc. But first, even though it's a Friday, I've got your headlines and your clips, so let's do it. Where shall we start? Lots and lots happening. So many giant stories here on a Friday at the end of the week, and there will be many more being generated as we speak. Let's start in the Middle East, where their defense minister, Israel's defense minister, Wednesday ordered all remaining Palestinians to leave Gaza City, saying it was their, quote, last opportunity. Anyone who stayed would be considered a militant supporter and face the full force of Israel's latest offensive. Pretty terrible threat. Where are they supposed to go? I mean, what a horrible, horrible situation it continues to be there. And here's a shocking surprise. A Texas megachurch pastor who built a church called Gateway Church into one of the largest congregations in the country pled guilty yesterday in a district court to charges that he had sexually abused a girl in the 1980s. 64-year-old man named Robert Morris entered the plea, admitting to 5 felony counts of lewd or indecent acts with a child. How shocking. Another megachurch pastor who has been accused of child abuse, sexual abuse of a child. Horrible. And yet so expected. All right, let's see. Here's a good one. This is a good headline. Nonprofit groups with very different, disparate missions are banding together in an alliance aimed at protecting one another if they become targets of our mad king's ire, his anger, his revenge. People involved in the initiative said NBC News is reporting they're calling it the NATO for nonprofits, groups organizing to band together if they are targeted by the regime. I really like that story. I think it's an important story, so I wanted to mention that one. Now here's a terrifying one. The climate crisis is intensifying, as evidence from Swiss glaciers. That's right, Switzerland's glaciers have faced enormous melting this year with a 3% drop in total volume, the 4th largest annual drop on record due to the effects of global warming, according to top Swiss glaciologists, but I'm sure it's just all fake news. Those Swiss scientists, you know how they are. Now, how about this one? The lead U.S. agency for protecting the electric grid, water supply, and other critical services from hacking has furloughed most of its already trimmed down staff in the government shutdown. Oh, great. Fantastic. Just as a decade-old law giving companies leeway to collaborate on cyber defense has expired. The twin impacts are leaving employees at the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency and outside professionals quite unsettled as they try to fend off a surge in sophisticated hacks from China, as well as continued ransomware threats. The administration actively making us more vulnerable, actively making us weaker, while talking about how many push-ups you should do if you're in the military. And so many power grabs and so little time to cover and document all of them. Yesterday, the White House abruptly fired a large share of the council members, advising the National Endowment for Humanities retaining only 4 appointees to our mad king, according to terminated members reached by the Washington Post. So that's not great. Also, the regime's unprecedented efforts to aggregate the personal data of Americans are facing a new legal challenge. Class action federal lawsuit filed this week argues the Trump administration's actions that aggregated personal data on hundreds of millions of Americans from various federal agencies violated federal privacy laws and the U.S. Constitution, put a sensitive data at a risk of security breaches, and could lead to the disenfranchisement of eligible voters. According to NPR, the headline, a lawsuit trying to block the Trump administration's effort to merge our personal data. Why all of a sudden conservatives trust the government with all of your personal data? Can't imagine why. Maybe because it's a cult. Maybe that's why. The FBI said Wednesday it had cut ties with the Anti-Defamation League, a prominent Jewish group that tracks anti-Semitism, after Republicans criticized the group for including slain activist Charlie Kirk's organization in a glossary on extremism. Oh, and all that ass-kissing that the ADL did, and now it's over? Awful. A once amazing organization that has really tarnished itself, sadly, in my opinion, and a lot of others, Jewish Americans that I know and respect. The White House cabinet just got a little smaller. The post-United Nations ambassador isn't a cabinet position, according to sources familiar with the matter, but President Trump is signaling the decreased importance of the UN to his administration. So, U.S. Ambassador Mike Waltz, not part of the Trump cabinet, they're saying. I think the worst story yesterday was what happened on Yom Kippur, the highest of holidays in the Jewish faith, where there was an attack on a synagogue in the UK. Deadly attack on Yom Kippur. It's been declared terrorism. 35-year-old of British citizen of Syrian descent shot dead by police after killing 2 people, and that is not going to make anything better in the UK. It's just an awful, awful, terrible attack, and I'm not going to speculate onto the motivations other than what seems obvious. Anti-Semitism at alarming rates across the world now. The FDA has approved generic abortion pill as opponents are pushing for Trump to create restrictions, but the decision would expand the supply of mifepristone at a time when the administration under pressure from abortion opponents to restrict access to abortion pills. But apparently conservatives are now furious at Trump's FDA for approving this new generic abortion pill. So that is a pretty interesting development. Mike Pence said the approval of the pill was complete betrayal. So the anti-abortion movement is none too happy about this. Mifepristone, which is used in nearly 2/3 of abortions across the United States. So that's why the abortion issue is not nearly as horrible as it was when this pill wasn't available and abortions were outlawed. I think that's a pretty fair conclusion to draw at this point. But that doesn't make it easier for anybody who is seeking an abortion, who needs a medical abortion and can't get one. So not to minimize that at all either. A couple more quick headlines. Yesterday, the mad king of ours decided that the U.S. is now in a war with drug cartels. He's determined that the U.S. is engaged in a formal armed conflict with drug cartels, as his administration has labeled terrorist organizations. And what does that mean? Hard to know, but they are crossing a lot of lines here. And it's very disconcerting, to say the least. An immigration judge rejected an asylum request from Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador and brought back to face criminal charges. The Trump administration apparently sent a 10-page compact to 9 universities urging them to pledge support for its political agenda to get priority access to federal funds. It's a trap, I'm telling you. New tariffs on timber, wood, furniture, and kitchen cabinets could potentially raise the cost of building and buying a home, according to a new analysis. Lots to cover and discuss about the shutdown. A lot of great journalists doing that, so I'll just give a quick rundown. The effects of shutdown: scattered and limited so far. Healthcare premiums, which are central to the shutdown debate, could raise significantly next year. The Energy Department said it was canceling $7.5 billion projects in the vast majority of states led by Democrats, many of them renewable energy projects. The FAA is investigating after 2 planes collided on a LaGuardia airport taxiway, injuring 1 person, and now the investigators have been furloughed. So, yeah. Well, I just made that up, but it wouldn't be a surprise. Those are the headlines that I've got for you today here on a Friday. There are much more. Let me know what you're hearing and seeing. As always, standupwithpete@gmail.com. But now it's time to get to the clip show. All right, a lot of the clips I've got for you related to the government shutdown. Let's start over at Fox News. Yeah, that's right. I'm starting with Fox News because I thought this was a pretty good clip from Senator Chris Coons of Delaware, who is on with Fox News' Martha McCallum.
That there are people who came to the country illegally, who got looped in under temporary protection status, who do receive those benefits. And we're going to get into that a little bit deeper in the next. Yes, there are. There are people who have temporary protection status, which makes them, quote, legal. And that's why they're falling under this legal protection, because it was expanded during COVID. And that's, I understand that there's two sides to this argument, but those are the people that are getting argued over right now.
There's not two sides to this argument. The president said Democrats want to give a gold-plated Medicare program for illegal aliens. That's not true. You can only benefit from the Affordable Care Act, Medicare and Medicaid, if you have legal status in this country.
Which was broadly expanded.
We are not
COVID.
fighting for health care for people who are here illegally. That's not true. But we are fighting for health care for Americans.
All right. I understand and appreciate your point on that.
And I don't know what else to say, because that's the rest of all of my arguments have been made. Those are the only ones they gave me. I'm a dum-dum. It's absurd and it's outrageous that this is being said. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the Obamacare negotiations, and this was an argument they used then. They actually put a stipulation into Obamacare saying that undocumented people could not buy into the exchanges, which is crazy because they were saying undocumented people who here, quote, illegally, couldn't buy a thing. You're making a law preventing them from purchasing something. And here's the thing. You would actually want undocumented people to have health insurance so that you don't have to pay for their health care at the emergency room. It's just punitive and terrible and makes no sense economically, but it does make sense politically. They're trying it again, but who knows if it works. Here's George Stephanopoulos pushing back on Christian nationalist and Speaker of the House, tiny little fella, Mike Johnson.
The Democratic proposal is designed to prevent millions of Americans from losing their health insurance, losing Medicaid coverage, or paying higher health care premiums. Why are you against that?
That's an absurd statement, what you said there. Let's be clear about what happened last night, George. No, George, let me tell you what happened last night. Everybody can go and review the facts for themselves. 44 Senate Democrats voted to reject a clean, nonpartisan continuing funding resolution to keep the United States government open. The Democrats said instead that they wanted to give health care to illegal aliens instead of keeping critical services provided for the American citizens. That's what happened, plain and simple. Every Democrat in the House, except one, voted against the clean continuing resolution. It was nonpartisan in nature. There are no policy riders on it that Republicans favored. It's exactly what Chuck Schumer and other Democrats voted for in March. But they've changed their tune. They changed their tune because Chuck Schumer is having political problems right now. That's just a simple fact, and everybody knows it. He's trying to outrun the far-left portion of his base, so he's decided to inflict pain on the American people. That's
facts.
The reality of what we're facing.
Here are the facts. The proposal does not provide health care for illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants cannot buy health care under the Affordable Care Act. They cannot receive health care subsidies. No. Illegal immigrants are ineligible for Medicare, Medicaid, and the Children's Health Program. The Democratic bill does not make them eligible.
That's it. That's how it's done. And that's pretty straightforward, but he could have done even better. Show me where Democrats have proposed or even advocated or even said anything remotely as if they were trying to give undocumented people health care. Show us where it is. Where did they say that? Where are they proposing that? I'll do it for you. Nowhere. The answer is nowhere. All right. Let's now go back to another Democratic congressman in the House. This is Brendan Boyle on MSNBC. He's a congressman from Pennsylvania. Very effective communicator, in my opinion.
The Capitol. Something you would not find was in Washington, D.C. In the Capitol this week. A couple hundred of my Democratic colleagues were there as well. And if you walked around the Capitol, something you would not find was a Republican colleague. Speaker Mike Johnson canceled session we were supposed to be in on Monday and Tuesday. He outright canceled it, sent all of his members home. So it's pretty clear they wanted this shutdown. They ensured that it would happen. Now, I know the Senate is coming back in session on Friday, and I understand will be in session over the weekend. But as of right now, the House isn't even scheduled to return by the Republicans' own design, not scheduled to return until Tuesday.
All right. Well, that was, I think, always the plan. But still effective in that case. Is he being honest? I mean, didn't they vote and leave town in the Senate was going to be the final vote on this, and then they weren't scheduled to be back in town until next week anyway. I'm not sure, but that's how Brendan Boyle laid out the scheduling on MSNBC. And here is Elizabeth Warren, Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, also on MSNBC with Jen Psaki.
The President of the United States said, I'm going to impose a lot more pain on my fellow American citizens. I'm going to impose a lot more pain on people in New York who need to use those tunnels, who need the upgraded water systems and better bridges. I'm going to impose pain on other Americans so I can get my way politically. To me, that is a place to stop and say, then we're ready to fight about this.
I mean, would have liked an even stronger statement. To me, that is a place that we need to stop and say we're ready to fight. Yeah. I mean, general strike? I don't know. She's talking, of course, about our Mad King's targeting of blue state infrastructure projects and ending or suspending their funding until they bend to his will, just in case you missed that. All right, here is Andy Beshear. He's the governor of Kentucky, and he was on with NPR's Steve Inskeep on Morning Edition.
But what's happening right now is the Democrats are trying to prevent health care costs from increasing for millions of Americans. If we don't see an extension of the ACA tax credits, it's not just those that get their health insurance from the ACA. It's also all other insurers that are likely to raise their rates significantly. So at a time when Americans are struggling with the cost of everything, I believe Democrats in Washington, D.C. are trying to provide a little bit of relief. And then what we're seeing on the other side is the president making threats, almost negotiating through blackmail, saying if you don't agree to exactly what I want, I'm going to fire a whole bunch of people and cause a lot of pain.
Do you think he's right? He's going to fire a bunch of people?
Well, if he fires a bunch of people, it's not because Democrats wouldn't reach a deal. It's because the president decides and actually fires people. People aren't a negotiating tool. They are not a prop. And that's how he's treating these families.
Yeah, Besheared. You just get Besheared, Steve Inskeep. Now let's get waltzed. Let's go to the Minnesota governor. It's Tim Walz, sounding a little weird in this clip.
Back into the market. So this is not a time for the federal government to be trying to distract from whatever things need to be done. Donald Trump has many times before he was president said if there's ever a government shutdown, there's one person to blame. It's the president. He was wrong about that. It's also the Speaker of the House. It's also those members of Congress from Minnesota who continue to not get their work done and back into the market.
Yeah. All right. There's Tim Walz. And now let's get Crocketed. Jasmine Crockett sat down with Kate Collins for a couple of minutes. I grabbed a couple of minutes from their conversation on CNN.
I know it's very quiet here on Capitol Hill tonight. What we've seen, though, from the White House is not silence. They are actually, using all of their government websites to say this is Democrats pushing this shutdown. I think we can show you some of those websites showing these messages, blaming Democrats for this shutdown, HUD, DOJ, State Department, Agriculture. Do you think that they're being more effective in their messaging in terms of putting this blame on Democrats?
I think they're being a lot more illegal in their messaging. The first thing that I wanted to know was how can this not be a violation of the Hatch Act in some way, right? Because we are not allowed to politic on official sites, period, right? And that's what they're doing. They literally change official government websites to put out their propaganda. Instead of just saying we're currently in a shutdown, you decided to play partisan politics on an official website. And I guess there is no limit to what they won't do because they do the exact same thing when we walk into committee. Instead of us having real committee hearings where we are actually able to get information that may somehow help the American people understand what's going on, instead, it's always a campaign rally that they're doing when we walk into committee, and it's more spewing of their propaganda. So I don't think that they're being more effective. I think that they are being more illegal in the ways that they're going about making sure that they can push out the information. I think that the American people are smart. As I was sitting here waiting to come on, I was going through my email, and almost at the top of my email was an email from a federal worker that said, "Keep up the great work. We will be okay. This is too important." So even
in this moment, we are getting emails, or at least I am, from federal workers that understand the sacrifice that is happening right now. But this idea that, you know, the retribution is going to be that since the government is shut down, then we're going to call in his henchman, Russell Vought, so that he can go and do what he's been doing. But he's been doing that with no permission. We've had to go to court, I don't know how many times, to say, no, you were wrong. You can't fire those people. So what difference does it make? They have consistently violated the law, whether it was statute or whether it was the Constitution.
All right. Great conversation. Jasmine Crockett, very clear and concise. Her word economy is just really great. Sometimes people say, when we talk about how people communicate, we're not taking into consideration our predetermined biases, our familiarity or comfort levels with gender. Like, oh, it's Elizabeth Warren's voice, or Jasmine Crockett's voice, or this or that man's voice. Sometimes we think like an affect, an accent, it helps or it hurts or something. I'm saying none of that. I'm just saying straight up, without all of those variables, that person is a very effective communicator and doesn't stammer and stutter, and she makes the points really well. I think there's a lot of Democrats in the House, especially, they're very good at that. A handful of senators too, Chris Murphy and others, but there's dozens of very, very concise, effective, impactful people who don't do what I just did. Boop, skibbity boop. I mean, everybody does a little of that. But I just had to stop and say that, because not only is she great, so many others are as well. Now I can't stop stammering. All right, let's go to Richard Gere. He's wonderful. He was asked by a foreign correspondent in a foreign land if he, the actor and activist, was worried about America. And he looked up. He was like, what? Are you? Yeah. What? Yes, it's bad. Things are very bad.
He named and actors that are few actresses and he named and actors that are worried about what's happening in the U.S. Are you worried?
Of course. No, I mean, we have a president who's completely, he's not only crazy, he's a dark, dark presence. And it's happened so quickly. 6 months, he's almost destroyed our country.
All right, there you go, Richard Gere. Now let's go to Jimmy Kimmel in Brooklyn last night.
Great time. You know, this morning I was visiting Diddy in prison, and he's doing good, guys. He said to say hello to everybody, and it occurred to me, you know, we've been here almost a whole week. I haven't seen one person masturbate on the subway. Am I going to have to do it myself? Not unlike the C train, the government is shut down. Millions of federal workers are without pay. Except for Congress, every member of Congress will still get their full salary for as long as this goes. So please don't worry about that. Please. The big sticking point is over health care. Democrats refuse to get behind a bill that would jack up premiums and force about 15 million Americans off their health insurance. Republicans say they will negotiate on health care after Democrats sign the bill, said the spider to the fly. Trump is going to take this opportunity to do as much damage as he can. You know, the shutdown means the Labor Department won't be able to release the monthly jobs report this week, which is said to be bad and is about to get worse if Broadway goes on strike, which is also over health care. Actors Equity, the union that represents all Broadway performers, has voted to authorize a strike unless producers agree to improve their health care coverage. And I hope they do. Broadway actors need health care. They deserve health care. Except for the cast of Cats. They go to the vet. But if the strike happens, they're saying it could go on for a long time, could possibly go for 525,600 minutes. But no matter what happens, you better believe that if there is a strike, that is going to be one fabulous picket line.
All right, Kimmel last night at The Late Show. Now let's head over across town to Stephen Colbert and The Late Show at CBS.
Welcome, friends, Romans, countrymen, to The Late Show. I'm your host, Stephen Colbert. Ladies and gentlemen, as I speak, we are on day 2 of the government shutdown. There's no end in sight. Services are closed. Federal workers are going without pay. Things are so rough, Uncle Sam is already selling feet pics. Those little piggies. Now, pretty good. Yeah. Give him a 4.3 on WikiFeet.
Wow.
Donald Trump, of course, has tried every possible option to end the shutdown. He's blamed Democrats. Not only, not only is Trump not trying to negotiate an end to the shutdown, he's now using it as a way to squash things he doesn't like, touting his shutdown as an unprecedented opportunity to cut more Democratic priorities. Yes. Yeah. Oh. No, it's not a shutdown. It's a shut-portunity. You know what they say? When God closes a food inspection program, he opens a listeria outbreak. Or words to that effect. Listeria outbreak. Now, this isn't the first government shutdown. This has happened many times before, even since we've been doing this show. There's a process that you follow. When a shutdown starts, people are what's called furloughed, okay? They don't come to work. They're not paid. But when the shutdown's over, everyone gets their job back, often with back pay. But now, Trump is threatening to use this excuse to fire a whole bunch more people from the federal government, posting, Republicans must use this opportunity of Democrat forced closure to clear out Deadwood. And I'm told, is this true? I'm told we have a response from the Deadwood.
Morning. Best time of day to go yourself.
Yeah. That's true.
All right, that's a little bit of how it sounded last night on Colbert. And now it's time for my conversation with JL Cauvin, who is one of my favorite people to talk to about almost anything, including all the important issues that we are facing. And I love talking to him, his perspective, his moral compass, his ability to explain complicated issues. And obviously, he makes me laugh real hard. He's one of the funniest comedians I know. He's also a very successful lawyer. And what I mean by that is he would play that down. But listen, first he went to Georgetown, and then he has worked in all kinds of important law firms and even for the government. He's now working for a great nonprofit in New York to keep folks in their homes and help advocate for lower income people get homes. And so I love the guy. And we had a great conversation. You can watch this on youtube.com/standupwithpete, where we were live yesterday with over 600 people watching. Thanks to everybody who showed up, but especially, of course, to JL Cauvin. Oh, look at that. We are live with JL Cauvin, who you can see this Saturday night in Washington, D.C., the D.C. Comedy Loft, 2 shows Saturday. Then you can see him in Philadelphia, Wednesday the 22nd, November. He'll be in Princeton. And then he's headed back to Canada in December, Toronto. You should catch him there. It's great to see you. Go to JL Comedy for all those dates, by the way, jlcauvin.com.
And Charlotte. Did you say Charlotte?
I knew you were going to plug the one I didn't say.
That's okay. No, I'm plugging the one I'm most scared. Philly and Charlotte are the two I'm just like
December 28th in Charlotte, North Carolina, the Comedy Club at Duckworth. Now that's Taint Week. It's post Christmas, before New Year's. That's a notoriously interesting time to do anything. You should be doing nothing.
Yeah, well, I don't do nothing well.
No, you don't. And
I prefer to do something and get nothing out of it, but never be inactive. That's my Glenn Ross.
Good to see you here. Thank you very much for joining me. Good to see everybody watching live. If you're not watching live, you're really missing out on being able to chime in on the chat, but we're happy to have you, all of you here. I wanted to start by asking you for
I'm sorry, quick question. I see you go live on most sites. I just want to check in with my Truth Social fans. Is this link also up on Truth Social?
I've not yet got it on Truth Social, but I am broadcasting today, and today only from a med bed.
Oh, good. Okay, excellent.
Yep. And at the end of the broadcast, one lucky live viewer will get a med bed.
Excellent.
So there you go. Okay. If anybody has any questions, I'm always happy to look at the live chat, and I'm always happy to steal your points and especially your jokes. and not give you credit for them. Like I have JL's career. I was on CNN this morning. You would have been good there, but you weren't there. I was. And
I was watching, which is the next best thing, to have insomnia and see Pete talking about comedy. The thing that I've done at great personal and career peril for 15 years.
When you turn on the TV and you saw Erica Hill introduce me, what happens to your body, your physio, like emotionally, when you see me there? Do you just sigh? Do you hope I do well? Do you roll your eyes at my points?
I hope you do well, and I also just throw out my cup of coffee because I go, well, you know, Folgers doesn't quite wake you up like rage and jealousy.
Do you want to try to recap anything that I said, or do you want to disagree with anything that I said? I don't know if I need to say it again here necessarily, but what's your general idea? I felt like when I listened to your podcast, Rain on Your Parade, you had a pretty nuanced idea. A few weeks ago, you had an early hot take on this, of course. It's been going on. It goes on for like a month, the Saudi Comedy Festival. But you basically were saying, listen, to the guy who's sharing an apartment with 3 other people and has a sick parent that he's got to take care of, he's going paycheck to paycheck. Yeah, I can see him taking the bag of money, as they're saying. But to someone like Kevin Hart, who's sold out to banks and gambling and anyone, much less
unreal. Chappelle, and Bill Burr seemed to be most people's biggest disappointment.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe he's being genuinely honest. Maybe that is how he felt when he said kind of, it was a great experience and, you know, people are people. But to me, going there, you're not going to save the Saudis. You're not going to give the comedy. This is not going to be some Hasselhoff moment for you at the Berlin Wall. Where you know you're freeing being part of a movement to free a nation. They are looking. They strike me as kind of a China of the Middle East in some ways, where it's like we are banking on becoming such international players economically that we will get a little bit of a pass on our human rights issues. And I think they've been MBS, ruthless as he may be, has been smart. He has cultivated the right people in power in this country. He has benefited greatly from the fact that Trump has, you know, been president twice. But I think there's really no excuse for it. And the idea of these mega rich comedians, and they're all, I'm sorry, Mike, my producer on the show, was kind of, you know, equivocating for some of the lesser known guys. But I said, every one of these people is a millionaire, except maybe a couple. Like maybe there's a few who are just simply making, you know, have a net worth. There are a lot of
people. I mean, I don't know if we saw every name in the list. There are a lot of support acts, opening acts as well.
No, and those are people, I know some of those people and like their comedy and know that they are, you just have to crunch numbers on the venues they perform in and their Patreon subscribers. Yeah. And you can easily come out to, okay, I don't know you making, let's say conservatively, $400,000 a year. I know a $300,000 check from the Saudis or whatever is huge, but you don't need it. And you certainly don't need to tarnish your reputation or bolster that of the Saudis.
I think that the one point I made is we all make money in different ways and take money from different entities as comedians, as gig workers, as salaried employees. I said, if you work for a gun manufacturer, you work for oil and gas company, you work for a big financial company, things that are doing bad things.
I work for a nonprofit that helps people stay in their homes and not get evicted.
There are other people like you, like me.
I did work for a law firm 2 years ago that then made a deal with Donald Trump. I know I didn't work there at the time. I sort of wish I had, because then talk about kicking off a political campaign. But lawyer leaves firm in protest of Trump. Anyway.
There's a larger conversation that any person can have with themselves, with their people, with whomever they feel beholden to or accountable to, if there's anybody in the world, about how, you know, what kind of integrity you have in terms of how you earn a living, how you support your family and so on. In this case, it's comedians taking money from the Saudi government. It's not a comedian taking money from Verizon or Chase Manhattan or some corporate gig or a college or any entity, all of which you could ridicule and criticize, I suppose. Bassem Youssef, the Egyptian comedian, made a point on Pod Saves America to, what's his name, Levitt.
I think people call him the Jon Stewart of comedians I don't follow.
And what he said was, if you're taking money from the American government, America has supported the worst genocide of our lifetimes in Israel. They're even worse than Saudi Arabia, was the point that he made, because our support for Israel. And so what do you think?
I started my career doing the Tutsi comedy festival in Rwanda. I would also like to point out that just numerically, he's factually wrong. Not that, and trust me, I'm not some Bibi Netanyahu apologist, but, it's just, 800,000 people were killed in 3 months in Rwanda in our lifetime. So let's not.
I might have added in our lifetime. It might not have been him, but saying that he supported the genocide. I'm glad you made the correction there. That might have been my, addition. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he was saying, he was trying to make the point of, if the American government doesn't have any moral high ground, we're human rights abusers as well. Every human rights agency in the world is criticizing the U.S., criticizing all the rest of the violators: China, Iran, North Korea, obviously
and
Israel.
That's why if I was invited to perform, and there are plenty of artists who have been invited to the Kennedy Center under Trump, et cetera. Now, if you want to argue that the U.S. never has any moral high ground whatsoever, but plenty of people have rejected the Trump regime and performing, doing events associated with them.
Pete Davidson's dad died on 9/11. He's taking it. Is it blood money?
Well, I said yesterday on Making Podcasts Great Again, which goes live tonight, that's my show as Trump. I said, the only way Pete Davidson, I did it as Trump, but the only way Pete Davidson should do that gig is if he is going to fly a plane into MBS's house. It's a little dark humor on Making Podcasts Great Again. But, if he's doing it as revenge, sure, do it. They're letting you in the house.
I almost thought it's like, I got a visit from my dead father's ghost. And he's like, take that money, son. Yeah, they killed me. Go take that money and go spend it and have a great time with it.
Yeah. And I think as far as I can tell, Pete Davidson is, I don't know the economics of Hollywood, but if you're only in like one TV show and 2 movies a year, you're probably really hard up for money.
Couple of people mentioning in the chat, there seems to be little blowback for the millionaire golfers who moved to the Saudi-backed Live Golf tournament. That's Benny, and Ronnie says...
there was a lot of blowback, and I talked shit about them. I think I did a joke in one of my specials, thanks for not watching.
Well, blowback... There was a lot of criticism, but was there any damage to their careers, their next tournament? Ronnie Gonzalez says the same argument can be made to the NBA in China. So,
I genuinely think they are different. Yes, NBA in China, I think, but those are also the NBA. You could protest it if you want, of course. But obviously that's the league making, a deal, like a league-wide decision. I'm not excusing, you always can protest and not go or not participate in events. As far as the golf goes, I think a lot of golfers were actually very angry when the PGA sort of merged with LIV, because many golfers actually said, fuck that money. You know what I mean? So there were plenty of golfers who were mad when it was like, well, now now I have nowhere else to play because now you've merged this group with this group I didn't want to be part of because the money is so outrageous.
You made the point on your podcast, and it's always worth mentioning, that the only way for there to be progress for all boats to rise in these cases is some kind of solidarity, some kind of organizing. And comedians will never have solidarity. We will stab each other in the back and take that gig, take that opportunity. I don't care who they did, what they did. I don't care what that comedy club, we've seen this over and over in the comedy community, and we've seen it in sports. We've seen scabs crossing the line. So, the way to do these things is to have solidarity, because as long as some comedians are going to go and perform at this festival, it's going to happen, and they're going to be able to, change their image, rebrand, which is what Saudi Arabia is trying to do, as become an entertainment capital as well. Let me move on, though, unless you have anything else to say about the comedians who,
I think I have.
Does anybody stop? Does Bill Burr sell less tickets?
honestly, here's the problem. Probably not. And the reason is, and I hate to cite my own stand-up comedy, but, one day when I'm gone, I hope people will watch it and at least go, oh, we should have bought tickets when he was here. I have a bit on Tall Boy, which you can watch on YouTube from 2023, but where I talk about selling out. And I remember a buddy of mine shortly after law school, I think, had talked to me about the Kardashians and how there had been a poll of like young people who didn't understand the concept of selling out as a bad thing, because there had been this sort of shift, whether it's actors doing commercials. It used to be, there used to be a dignity to being a Hollywood actor where, if I'm doing commercials, I go to Japan because I can't allow the quality and integrity of my work to be so commercialized that I'm just selling on my name and not doing real acting work. We've eroded all those sort of barriers, those invisible, guardrails, all the things like Trump violates politically, we violate kind of culturally now. Selling out really doesn't exist anymore. And I had a bit about how I was glad that Biggie, my favorite rapper, had passed away because, I then did the impression and said, if you don't know, now you know, DiGiorno, that he'd be doing commercials. And you'd be like, why are you doing this? You're degrading the art and your legacy. And it's one of the biggest laughs in Tall Boy. But my point is, we have reached this point where we're seeing the repercussions of a society that no longer views selling out as kind of something to be scorned. It's now get money, get yours. And that's why I've always said Trump, as horrific as he is to so many of us, in some ways, he's at least an American mascot, if not a worthy president. He is kind of a mascot of our times. Just get yours. That's what it's about, a kind of mob Scarface mentality to the American dream and America, instead of a hard work, integrity, honesty. Those are like optional now. Those are like bonuses, but no longer necessary to sort of be considered a mainstream decent person.
Who never sold out is the painter Bob Ross. He never was painting a landscape and drew in a Starbucks or anything. He was I felt like that guy died before he could have sold out. And I know they sell his paint supplies and so on, but it's still family owned. There's some controversy who should
Nature's Andy Warhol. Bob Ross.
So let's switch gears then, and I love everything that you just had to say there, and talk about the government shutdown, which we've seen often in the past few years. The last one, however, was under the first Trump administration. Should be mentioned, it didn't shut down under Biden. That being said, the government's now shut down. There's all kinds of consequences as a result. We, as commentators, often go to who will get the blame before we get to what the potential consequences could be from any number of federal agencies for all kinds of different businesses and students and immigration, people who need their applications processed for a loan, farmers who need to get paid for the crops that they now can't sell. So there's all kinds of consequences, real life consequences for people actually working in the government that might not get paid. Of course, the question is, why did this happen? Who gets the blame? And will it go on for the next 3 years? What are your thoughts about the shutdown? And is it different?
I mean, I think at this point we have to just admit the blame is pretty clearly on Bad Bunny and Jay-Z for booking him as part of the Super Bowl. It's America will not allow Democrats to defend them without making them pay a price. That's where we are in politics. Like, you're going to raise healthcare costs. This is our line in the sand. This is, even Chuck Schumer is ready to throw down over this. And we will end up in a place where Trump's poll numbers stay exactly where they are. And Democrats, whatever happens, whether there is a deal made, whether there is no deal made, we will eventually do what we do as a country, and we will blame mom for trying to make us eat our vegetables and trying to take care of us. And we'll go, well, Dad, it's really mom's fault. It's really the Democrats. So I just feel like this is becoming such a familiar thing where it's all the Republicans' fault and they will have to equally share blame at best.
One of the very few pieces of leverage Democrats have is this government shutdown. They obviously lost the vote on the big, beautiful bill, which is going to raise the healthcare costs for millions of Americans. They're already going up, apparently. I feel like Democrats have messaged pretty well, but it's still, I don't know if it's going to matter until people actually see those premiums go up, if they see them go up. And then who will they have to blame? It seems like a winning issue, healthcare costs for Democrats. What do you think? And by the way, a lot of the people who are going to see those healthcare costs go up live in red states. They're not going to.
Well, they already lost some of their jobs, and they don't care about that. You know, some of their green energy jobs are going away. It's
in red states, you're saying there were a lot of people that were MAGA that were employed in any number of renewable energy battery plants or facilities, and they've lost their jobs. And you're saying those people don't care?
It seems like Trump's approval rating has really just sort of solidified where it was before and after the big, beautiful bill. I think, this will sound very bad, and I don't really endorse this.
That's because most of the consequences of the bill almost none have gone into effect. It's worth mentioning. And by the way, when they do, unfortunately, no one will connect it back because they put a timeline horizon that would make it probably land.
2029, right. President J.D. Vance is going to get blamed.
Well,
I just think, unfortunately, the America, I don't want this to happen. So I'm only speaking kind of a theory, what I think would work on America. Let the healthcare costs go way up.
Right.
Like, let's let America get the full Trump instead of us trying to put a condom on this mess. Let's let America get what they asked for. And I don't want that. That just seems to be still the only thing that will actually work, because no credit, just like with terrorism, you don't get credit for the attacks you stop. And America seems very, very stubbornly willing to never give Democrats credit for anything at this point. And, it's the same way in the first term. I've talked about this before, where all the people around him that were like, hey, we took that memo from him, or we didn't do what he told us to do. Aren't we heroes? And I'm like, no, you're acting unconstitutionally. And even worse, you're making Trump appear more normal so that people don't actually understand the full consequences of what they've done to the country.
Yep.
And you don't want those consequences, but we've got to this point where you say, how else are Americans going to learn? I'm sorry. Like literally, how else? Because if we stop Trump from doing bad things, many independents and conservatives will wake up 5 and 7 years from now and go, it just wasn't so bad. I mean, January 6th didn't even matter at the end of the day. So if it's their health costs, if it's black lung, if it's jobs going away, that may be that may be the price. It may not be a civil war and trench warfare and gunfire in the streets that gives us a civil war. It might have to be Trump versus America is the civil war. And until he starts claiming victims, then you don't know you're in the war yet. You don't know who your enemy is. You still think it's fucking Democrats trying to stop you from dying, trying to keep you employed, trying to keep you educated and know what history is. And if you don't, so I think that's the war. The war is Trump versus America. And until he gets to take some casualties and fuck shit up, people will continue thinking it's wokeness versus America. And we sound stupid and we continue to damage the country. So that's why I'm not asking for these horrible consequences. I'm coming to a sort of fatalistic conclusion, which what else other than consequences will shake America out of this?
I think you make a lot of
stupidity.
I think you make a lot of really good points here.
Let
me just get your what?
Clip it.
Let me just get your quick take on the.
Or at least just clip it for me, and I'll share it.
I will clip that. Why don't you just give me the quick take, your take on your reaction to watching Pete Hegseth and our mad little Shitler address 800 or 500, whatever there were, generals and admirals in that audience. Like, as a comic, as a performer, as a communicator, I just had a lot of thoughts. I've already shared them pretty much. I want to get, what did you think of like Hegseth pacing around and talking down to men who had actually seen combat versus him? I mean, who the hell is he to, like, all the way FAFO, all that stuff. It was the douche chills I got were the case I've never had. I can't seem to get rid of them.
It was, I think I've given him too much credit calling him the Cobra Kai Secretary of Defense. He's way worse than that. It's disrespectful. It's embarrassing. And, you know, obviously I'm sure there's some military in that room that are like, fuck yeah. But most of them are just like, I can't believe I've served my country. And this is like the final chapter of my career is Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. Marching around lecturing me on my fitness, and like it's beyond embarrassing. And what I feared was that it was going to, it's like, I think it showed that Hegseth and Trump are still incredibly stupid people. I know Hegseth went to Princeton, but they are dumb. They get their own motivations so wrapped up that they don't make smart decisions. I've said the best weapon we have against Trump is that Trump cannot stop being Trump. He has no brakes. So he could do so many things and stop, and then he'd be in a good position, and he can't. He always has to go. And Hegseth was on full display doing that as well. It's beyond, it was just beyond embarrassing. And I can't imagine like the level of patriotism you have to have as a general to be like, I'm here serving the people and the Constitution. So this guy who, you know, I wouldn't spit on if he was on fire. I just have to, this is our country, and he is the chosen Secretary of Defense. And I hold myself to a higher oath. But look at how many like 4-star generals Trump like fucking broke. You know what I mean? Like, just not broke like they were weak, just like, well, you know, I can fight weapons, and I can fight soldiers, and I can fight nations, but I can't fight this piece of shit. There's a whole list. I don't know how somebody watches that unless you're just a bigot and just a hateful person, is not like embarrassed. It doesn't have to be an embarrassment like I'm never voting Republican again or something. I'm not talking that, but just in the moment where you're like, do you think this is what the Secretary of Defense should be? Like, he's lecturing these people. Like, and I even get it if Trump was lecturing them. Hey, we have civilian leadership. You know, we have civilian leadership for a reason. We concede that authority. But like, Hegseth is this like weird nepo. I know he's not a relative, but it's like Fox News might as well be Trump's, you know, fifth or sixth child. So there's like this connection there that he's like, oh, I'm going to boost all my Fox babies. But it's, I would just be so offended by my country that they put me, I have sacrificed my life, because these are generals. These are people whose lives, this is, you know, a military priesthood. They have given their lives to the country. They've sacrificed potential wealth, safety, family time, to be lectured by a punk bitch. Like, it's so gross. You know, it's
hard for me to imagine them seeing it any other way.
I mean, we've got two, and like the hypocrisy. I saw some clip from somebody, might have been Eric Swalwell, but it was, you know, they're showing clips of Pete Hegseth doing chin-ups during his RFK thing, and they're horrible.
They're weak, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I actually, to be fair, expected better from him.
Yeah, one would
even
think.
as a D-bag, I
expected,
was like, well, he's probably going to be ripped and like kick ass on the fitness stuff.
Well, what I expected was that he would have some self-awareness to know how bad they were, and he would erase that video before anybody posted it. You would have thought he would have at least obfuscated his own failure in that case. But
I think they've all adopted. Somebody talked about a while back in Trump's first term, I guess the Steve Jobs. He had something, and I forget from the book the terminology, but something field distortion vision or something about like how he just saw the world the way he wanted to see it. And that kind of helped him in his creative process. But Trump, it seems almost infectious. Like Trump is completely delusional, but America keeps kind of validating his delusions enough. But then it happens with his own people. Like I bet when Stephen Miller looks in the mirror, he's like, my God, you're handsome. You know, it's just like they all have this kind of invincibility now where everything they do is like, because I'm doing it, I'm with Trump, I'm good, I'm great,
right.
I'm this, I'm that. And then Trump's speech, I mean, I'm not telling the generals they have to pull back out of the Saudi comedy festival. But when you have a president saying you should go practice on, American cities, I don't know, that feels like a pretty bright, uncrossable, unapproachable line. And then just seeing Trump, the only thing that gives me a little bit of schadenfreude is how like slurry he is and how old he's starting to really appear.
Yeah.
I think he finally cares. That's my theory. He didn't age at all in the first term because I think he didn't care. It was just like, this is cool. I have power. I get to like be president. But now he has an agenda of revenge and grifting and wealth accumulation. So now he's invested, and he's older also.
And he feels and he feels much more invincible because of the Supreme Court, because of the sycophants that have served him that won't say no.
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
But I think he's invested in the presidency now in the way he wasn't. Not for good reasons, not for the country, but for himself. And I feel like just like Biden aged 100 years, I think part of that was age, and part of that was was a man who deeply feels and was invested in the job as best he could be. And Trump is invested now also, and I think it's weighing on him in some ways, which is good.
Thank you to the over almost 600 of you watching live across our platforms. You must have shared it somewhere with your massive following.
I did.
Well,
I'm not like David K. Johnston and these types. I can't play second fiddle.
Well, patreon.com/Pete Dominic. I have guests better than JL every day.
That is, I believe that's what Donald Trump would say. What is that? True puffery? That's the corporate? No, he had some other term for it. But anyway.
CJL this weekend in D.C. He's one of our favorite guests. I'm always happy to talk to you. Before I let you go, I do have to ask you about this. You had one of where would you rank this video? Your Trump impression of doing his reaction to the Super Bowl announcing that Bad Bunny would be the halftime show. A lot of people, I guess he himself is outraged by it, right? I mean, Trump, I feel like he said something. No,
I don't think he did. I think everybody on TikTok thinks he did because of me.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's the biggest video I've ever had on Instagram, the biggest video I've ever had on TikTok, the biggest video I've ever had on Facebook.
Wow.
So yeah, it's I just thought it was a kind of perfect storm.
Actually, some people even think he might be the greatest bunny. They call him a goat bunny, which sounds like a scientist put together like a rabbit and a goat in terms of like the things they're doing with science. When they put these species together, they make all sorts of crazy things we're trying to put down. We're trying to stop this kind of horrible science, but it's goat meaning greatest of the goat in terms of bunnies is the Easter bunny because he is a pro-Christian bunny. He's probably the most Christian. He might be the most religious of all the animals, to be honest.
The whole thing is real funny. Everybody should go watch it. That's just a little bit, and it's genius and hilarious. And apparently other people are doing lip syncing of your impression, this actual video, and getting more views than you.
Yeah. And that's saying something because when you consider the fact it's my most watched TikTok ever, it's not like, oh no, nobody's watching mine and somebody else is reaping the benefits. This video as of now in under 3 days has 1.4 million views on TikTok but the two women, nice looking women, they're not like, being provocative in the video. They're just nice looking women. One's blonde, one's a brunette. I feel like Jack Tripper on Three's Company right now. And the blonde woman is at 1.5 million views, lip syncing parts of my video. And the brunette is at 1.9 million views.
Doesn't it say,
my video.
Isn't it a kind of an interesting study or example? And I mean, kind of seriously, in that this is your genius in terms of the writing, the jokes, you're a genius in terms of the performance and the impression. But someone more attractive than you, particularly a female, is going to get more views than you just because their face doesn't look like Adam Sandler, but not as good. Like, is it say something about beautiful women? It's
Pete. You've teased my script that I just wrote. It's called Cyrano de Bergerac, Rack, and it's about busty women who get credit for my words. No.
Wow, that is funny and very clever, I will say.
Thank you. It's what I do. Not for a living, apparently, but I do it well anyway. No, but to me, both women gave me attribution and everything, but one of the women thought it was real. Like she must have heard the audio maybe from the blonde woman. Oh. And so many people. This is what's both gratifying and frustrating about this. Whenever somebody compares me to another impersonator, another Trump impersonator, no one ever thinks it's really Trump. They'll go, "Oh, you're almost as good as," or "You and two are my two favorites."
Yeah.
Nobody is ever fooled by another Trump impersonator. I was accused of lip syncing this, of my own video of lip syncing it, and the amount of comments in the thousands, it seems, on both of these videos, that both of the lip syncers were going, "I can't believe he said that." There were videos where I saw people commenting just on the audio, not even using the audio, saying, "This is where America is at right now. This president doesn't know that Puerto Rico is a territory of the U.S." They were like breaking down the video as if the audio was really Trump. And it's like, all I want, other than a lot of money, is kind of people to just be like, and I've said this to friends before, and I've said this to my girlfriend, Laura, I say, it sounds arrogant, but it's a funny thing to be able to say, I really think I'm the best in the world at something. Like, I think I am actually the best in the world at something. And I'm not on SNL. I'm not going to have that platform. I could never get this for whatever godforsaken reason. I could never appear on a late night television show doing this. It boggles my mind, to be honest, that I've never gotten the opportunity outside of my own social media, really, to sort of showcase this. But when you can fool people, and then you have people getting angry at you that you're lip syncing, and you have people saying you're AI, that'll be the new thing now that I guess people will accuse me of. And I'm going, what if everybody got together and realized this was original material from a good impersonator? Like, I always thought, I never minded the idea of being a one-hit wonder if I could get the actual success and money of a one-hit wonder. Like Rich Little did a lot of things, but his Nixon, the man was still doing Vegas 4 years ago as Nixon.
You are the best at this in the world, and there's no doubt about it. And it must be nice. I'm the best in the world at being me. Like this, I'm a particular snowflake, but you are the best in the world at doing something that a lot of people do. Millions of people do a Trump impression. No one is better than yours. I know a guy, you know him too, who does a Trump impression, and he shows up at parties and bar mitzvahs as Trump. And I was on his page the other day looking at it, and I was like watching him, filming him walk into a party. I'm just like, I just can't imagine what that must be like. Because those are MAGA people and families and events.
Well, I wanted to bring up that during our discussion of the Saudi festival, that I had real discomfort, even though I did a great job, when I found out 2 days before I had to go to Chicago that they were like, didn't want them to mention their political affiliation. So I could be like, maybe the party's mixed. But I did a show as a birthday party as Trump for a MAGA family. And the guy was texting me days later saying, everybody is still talking about you from the party.
Yeah. And so how do you, during the time that you were there, how did you feel?
I felt there were moments where I felt deeply uncomfortable.
You're worse than any of those comedians
I know.
who performed in Saudi Arabia.
I know. And the thing is, I hate flying. I've been having like anxiety for the last month.
You flew to that gig.
I did. I violated everything I hold dear just to get that nice check from that family in Chicago.
It was a nice big check.
It was a good check.
Okay.
It wasn't Saudi money. It was Chicago suburbs money. But it was like, I don't want to, like, I have turned down multiple events since, because it's just, I almost want to be like, when I do cameos, for example, 99.9% of the time, it's either, even if they are a Trump supporter, they like are sending it to a non-Trump supporter, or it's a non-Trump supporter sending it to their relative who's a Trump supporter. And I sort of go, hey, as long as somebody in here has a conscience, I can do this. And that's how I felt about the party. There were a few, but what was funny is there was a couple, it was a majority MAGA, and I was very shocked at how diverse the crowd was, like very, very surprised. And that is where I came up with my theory that I think a lot of wealthy MAGA people view Trump the way you and I might view Walter White or Tony Soprano, that he's our favorite anti-hero from a TV show, because they're so in this clique. I know there's a lot of people who are hardcore Trump people. This felt like people who were so rich that it's just like taxes, and he makes the news interesting.
Do you
like it's a TV show? But this one couple wasn't going to come. And I was like, I just leaned over to the woman and I said, trust me, if you don't like Trump, you definitely should come.
Yeah.
Because they were going to like sit it out, like to avoid the Trump party portion. And I said, please be there, because I'm hinging it on you being there. And like, dang, I really was only performing for those two nice people who don't like Trump.
Real quick, in a just world, this video would make you money with the amount of views that it gets. Do you make money on any of these platforms when it gets over like 1 million?
Yeah, TikTok and Facebook. I've probably made just between those two, because for whatever reason, I'm so annoyed at YouTube, where I have the largest social media following of every social media site. I had the fewest views by 95%, which is annoying, because if it had gotten similar views on YouTube, it would have been thousands of dollars. But I made over $1,000 on this video, which obviously cost me nothing to make. But in a just world, what I really want is and somebody suggested this on one of the lip syncers. They said Bad Bunny should use this as his intro for the Super Bowl halftime. And I said, now that would be a great check.
Good luck with that and everything else this weekend in DC.
Yes, sir. 2 shows in DC, and then Philly, all you Philly people, greater Philly people on October 22nd. I need to sell well at that show if I'm going to keep coming back.
To the over 651 people now watching. Really appreciate it. Thank you to JL's massive following over there. I'm sure you're watching probably a lot of those people on whatever accounts you shared this conversation with. I do it every day. Please come on over, standupwithpete.com, and check me out on YouTube. And if you want, it'd be amazing. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. But also, of course, if you're not already a subscriber and supporter of JL, somebody said I should put up, next time I go on CNN, your headshot with a Cameo plug.
Yeah, I saw that. I agree. That would be awesome.
Get a Cameo. Are people still ordering Cameos?
Absolutely. I had a good September.
Oh, good. Yeah. Is it always Trump they want you to do?
At this point, yeah. I've received a couple. I actually got one from my college basketball team. They wanted me to do 2 of our coaches for somebody's birthday, and I was like, well, time to dust off those 24-year-old impressions.
I bet you could capitalize a lot more on the RFK and get that and market that towards doctors and people who hate him for what he's destroying.
That's true. It's up for debate. I think he just wants us to be healthier.
Oh, I thought you thought he was poisoning us.
No, I mean, it's more like he's poisoning the poison in us. You know what I mean?
Right.
The enemy of my enemy still kills me, is I believe the scientific method according to RFK.
Yeah. You know, I think you should be selling your RFK cameo impression to.
Well, you know, it's. I do like it though. That's you can always count on some liberals though to try to cage me in to, like, you know, the Queensberry rules or whatever. It's like, we don't do that here. Yes, and we lose.
One of my best friends, a pediatrician, you should have a video that every pediatrician can just play for the patients who are suspect and be like, take it from RFK himself.
This doctor doesn't actually know what he's talking about. I mean, look at me. I'm jacked and I'm 69 years old.
He's dropping those. Apparently, he was putting a nicotine patch or whatever those things are. Those zinc, whatever those things are called. He was he was loading them in, like in the Oval Office or some appearance, like while he's standing there pretending to promote health. He's literally, it would be the equivalent of just lighting up a cigarette, which it's hard to believe people used to do.
Just crack pipe, just a full-on crack pipe.
All right. Thank you, my friend. Always
Thank
great.
you.
Much appreciated. Thanks for almost 700 people watching. Oh, man. Amazing. We really appreciate it. Thanks, JL.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. All right. That's right. Goodbye, everybody. But you can catch me later at 1:30 p.m. East live with Christian Finnegan, another great comedian and commentator. I love to get his perspective on everything. Thank you to JL. Go see him. Go to jlcomedy.com or jlcauvin.com and see him live. Pay for a cameo. See if you can get him to do that RFK. That's all I've got for you. Thanks for all of your support this week. Thanks to everybody who came to the Hangout last night. And I hope you have a great weekend, and I will talk to you next time. Keep standing up. Be the change you want to see in the world. And thank you very much for your support. All right, bumblebees. See you later. Here's Jon Carroll, November 6th in Virginia.
On your fence, even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense and you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town, just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down, boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of a stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change would begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. Alright, we got to speak up, we got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you now. about to run and hide. It says stand